Welcome to Compass Conversations. This is a new podcast with the Center for Faith and Vocation, soon to be known as the Compass Center. In these conversations, we are going to chat with faculty, staff, and students who advance our mission of supporting communities of faiths, meaning, purpose, and spiritual life. My name is Allison, and I am a senior journalism and German double major at Butler. For our third episode, I facilitated a conversation with Imam Anis Adni and Shams Parkar. Imam Anis has served the Central Indiana and DFW areas for over 15 years as a religious leader and community organizer. He graduated from Marian University and studied Islamic theology and sciences in Texas. Currently, he serves as the Imam of the Al-Salam Foundation in Carmel, the Muslim Life Advisor at Butler, and the Executive Director of Inspired, an initiative addressing the socio-spiritual needs of Muslim youth, young adults, and families, inspiring and empowering them to develop and sustain a proud and reflective American Muslim identity. Shams is a first-year honor student studying neuroscience. He is an active member of the Muslim Student Association and participates in research in the Kowalski Lab. He believes in giving back to the community and volunteers at Al-Salam Foundation, La Plaza, and Versity. He was awarded the Versity Community Impact Scholarship for his work. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. All right, well, thank you so much for joining me for the third episode of Compass Conversations. Imam Anis, if you want to start, just explain how you got involved with the CFV and what your current role is.
Sure. Well, I'm Imam Anis Adni. I'm the Muslim Life Advisor at Butler University. I got involved with the CFV actually about a decade ago when I had just finished seminary studies and I was invited to Butler University to be a respondent on trans lives in Islam. So that was the beginning of the relationship building for me at Butler University, and then thereafter, I got to meet some professors, visited their classes, and kept those relationships over the years. Eventually, I finished my seminary studies and things, and I worked as an imam in the DFW area and back in Indianapolis. And eventually, a position opened up for chaplaincy at Butler University for a Muslim Life Advisor. And I was encouraged to apply for that position. I did, and then that's how I got to where I am now.
Yeah, and what are some of your responsibilities or things you do in your role?
Sure. So the role is really threefold. Um, the majority of the role is pastoral care for Muslim identifying students and others on campus. And then the second part of the role is campus education about Islam and Muslims and Muslim issues for faculty and staff. And then the last part of the job revolves around admissions and recruitment. So essentially informing Muslim communities about our work at Butler and what Muslim life is like at Butler University. And hopefully, by informing everyone, they'll be incentivized to join us and be a part of the Butler family.
Yeah, thank you. So Shams, can you describe kind of your affiliation with the CFV, maybe your involvement in the Muslim Student Association?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm a first year student and I got to know about Muslim life at Butler through Imam Anis. He brought me on a tour in around February 2023. I started in fall 2023. And before then, I was quite unfamiliar with what Muslim life was like on Butler University, at Butler University. As you all know, Butler University is fairly small. It doesn't have a lot of diversity at the moment, but Imam Anis played a pretty important role in bringing me to Butler University. And ever since then, I've been involved with the MSA, which promotes Muslim activities on campus. I've been a part of various interfaith events. I think there was a Islamophobia and anti-Semitism event. There was a memorial for the lives lost in Gaza. There was a couple other ones here and there. So through the MSA, I have been active in those kinds of activities and yeah, hoping for more.
Great. So Imam Anis, how has being the Muslim Life Advisor maybe changed your perspective on being a leader in the Muslim community?
Yeah, I mean, it's changed a lot, honestly. I was a teacher for a very long time. I taught in high school and I work as a Muslim pastor, right? I work as an imam. But being an imam in the community and being a teacher in the classroom, those are very different dynamics than pastoral care for young, inspiring adults. In the university setting. And so I honestly, I would have to say I think I'm learning a lot more from the students than anything the students are going to learn from me. I've really enjoyed like building those mentorship relationships with the students, advising them, essentially like being a cheerleader for them on campus and supporting their programs, their initiatives, and providing pastoral care wherever I can and helping the students wherever they are on their journeys.
Yeah, and like Shem said, it obviously played a role in him coming here, so definitely
That's
making
right.
an impact. So Shams, what are some challenges you face as a Muslim student on campus, and how has having an established community in MSA and having Imam Anis on campus helped with that?
I think the biggest challenge with being a Muslim in Butler University is probably just trying to explain what Islam is. Because there's a lot of misconceptions around Islam, especially whenever Islam gets into the main news feed, as it has been recently. So, as a Muslim student, a lot of my non-Muslim friends ask me a lot about Islam. What is Islam like? What are your guys' practices? So sometimes I have to separate like the cultural aspects, the things that get highlighted or portrayed the most in the news outlets, and what Islam really is like for an individual on a day-to-day basis. So I feel like a lot of the events that Imam Anis has been holding on Butler's campus, as well as activities explaining Islam and holding like these, we call them halakas, which are basically general discussions where we present a topic about Islam and we discuss it using our religious texts and the practices of our final prophet. These kinds of things have made it easier for me to explain what Islam is more thoroughly and more effectively to my non-Muslim friends at Butler University.
Yeah, the educational aspect of making sure everyone, yeah, great.
Exactly.
All right, so shifting gears a little to the more vocational aspects of your roles or just you as people. So, Imam Anis, if you want to start, but is there someone who's been really influential in your journey? Someone you maybe take advice from, and what have you learned from them?
Sure. Yeah, I wouldn't even say it's someone. I would say it's a couple of people that have been really instrumental in guiding me to where I am and who I am today. I would say, I grew up in Indy. One of my good friends, Imam Chad Earl, he's an Imam now. At the time, he was a college student, and when I was a high school student, and he was a young mentor for me, really helped shape my early adulthood, if you will. Um, we traveled around the world, like studying together. Eventually, once I went into my own university studies, and helped really guide my early learning and an understanding of Islam. I remember he shared his copy of the autobiography of Malcolm X with me, and that was really instrumental in helping me kind of see such an instrumental figure in Islam and as a Muslim. And it really helped inspire me. As I grew older and I went into seminary studies, one of my main teachers, Sheikh Abdel Nasser Jangda, he's the founder and the head of the Qalam Institute and the Qalam Seminary in Dallas. He's been an amazing mentor for me. I mean, he's been a rock in my journey, both as a student and now as an imam. And the third person I would say is Dr. E.S. Raddad. Um, he's the president of IMCA, the Indianapolis Muslim Community Association, and been a mentor for me for I'd say a decade or over a decade, and especially for me as a professional or a working professional. He's really helped guide my career choices and understanding honestly, how to be an adult. And there are others, brother Bassem Abdullah, Ahmed Saada, really great instrumental figures for me. Imam Umar al-Khattab, who's the former Imam of Mashal al-Fajr. These are pillars in our community, and they've been instrumental in helping me become the person that I am today. And I use many of the lessons that they've taught me in my mentorship of these young, inspiring adults on our campus as well now.
Yeah, thank you. Sean, same question, maybe an influential person in your life who has shared advice.
Well, I could say my mom and dad, but that would be a little cliche. So, uh, probably my cousin, honestly. Last summer, I didn't really know my cousin. He's about 8 years older than me. I paid him a visit last summer in India, and he's just been such a hardworking individual. And to see him come up and rise and succeed, he's now coming to the United States, which has just been a really amazing thing to see him grow and like understand his potential, and then move into his field of expertise is project management. So trying to provide him advice and trying to like elaborate what life is like in the United States, how Muslims are interacting with other Americans, non-Muslim Americans, and Muslim Americans in the United States, and getting acclimated with life in the United States. These things have helped me understand what my role as a Muslim and as an American have been to a fuller extent. And of course, he's my cousin. He's my favorite cousin, honestly. He's provided me so much advice and so much support in understanding my capacity to grow and to learn and to achieve my dreams.
Well, yeah, thank you for sharing. So Shams, if you want to start for this question, what advice do you have for people looking to engage in interfaith conversation, maybe more specifically at the college level, maybe advice to fellow students?
Yeah, good question. Honestly, I've been in college for a year, but the best way that I would answer this question is to just be curious and to have an open mind. Because I feel like there's just so many misconceptions and so many misrepresentations of other people's faiths and cultures. Yes, we have like a problem with stereotyping and echo chambers, right? With social media, people, for lack of worse, maybe it's not their fault, maybe it is, but we have these preconceived biases, or it's just the algorithm of the social media applications that we use, which filtered us to have this very narrow point of view. So going into college, it has helped expand my opportunities and my opportunities of engaging with different kinds of people. And through that, I've been able to ask more questions and to really understand and see people, excuse me, people from different backgrounds, how they interact and deal with various challenges throughout the day in a way that I would not have been able to understand through social media.
Yeah, thank you. And Mamani, same question, maybe advice to students or faculty and staff looking to engage in these interfaith conversations.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, for anyone, I always advise that we have an empathy first approach. If we're able to be a bit more emotionally intelligent and empathize with others, understanding where they are in their journey through life, where they're coming from, contextualizing people's perspectives, thoughts, feelings, actions, reactions. When we're able to empathize with others, we're able to see them as a whole human being, and that really helps, inform us better, inform our thoughts, our interactions, and it helps in our relationship building. So if we're really sincere in getting to know others that are different from ourselves, we need to have that empathy first approach so we can understand them and they can therefore understand us as well.
Yeah, thank you. All right, Mama Nisi can start. Is there a book or movie you'd recommend to everyone listening that is particularly meaningful to you, or maybe helped you learn some lessons, realize your purpose?
Sure. I'll engage in some recency bias here. There's a book that I've been reading. I actually just finished reading it recently, called The Wall Between. It's a book. I believe the subtitle is What Jews and Palestinians Should Know About One Another, something like that. Um, and it's been a really an insightful book, about Jewish individuals, Palestinian individuals, and what each should know about one another. That's been great. We've actually there have been a few meetings between faculty and staff once a month where we're going through that book together, and having shared discussions. So that's been really wonderful. And let's see, I mentioned this book earlier, but the autobiography of Malcolm X. For me, it was really instrumental for me as a young man. So that's always one of my like top suggestions.
Yeah, thank you. And Sean, same question for you.
I guess one of my most favorite authors from middle school was Khaled Hosseini. Um, Maybe I'm getting the name wrong, but he's a really famous Afghan author. And it was, I mean, the kinds of stories that he told and the kind of experience that he portrayed throughout his novels and about the life of immigrants coming to the United States, of Afghan refugees, life in Afghanistan, the difficulties faced by these kinds of individuals. That was something that I never really thought about. I was born in St. Louis, Missouri, grew up, lived in the United States for about, I don't know, at that time, 12 years, my entire life at that point. But to really understand the kind of perspective that my parents had or my cousins had who were still abroad in India helped me understand others in a more meaningful way. And I guess that kind of goes to show the power of literature, even though we may not have been, even though we may not be able to engage in relationships of that kind so easily or understand such kinds of backgrounds, literature helps bridge that gap, in my opinion. And Khaled Hosseini was one of those kinds of authors for me.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so final question. Chums, if you want to start, given that we are all facing some kind of personal, professional, global challenges, what gives you hope for the future?
Gives me hope for the future. Probably in the time that I've been alive, I've just noticed more and more individuals being more respectful and more understanding of my faith. And it's gone to show that diversity has made a larger impact in the United States. You know, my parents were in the United States in 2001 whenever 9/11 happened, and they said that it was like the day after it happened was one of the most tense days of their lives. They were not sure about what kind of reaction Americans would have following 9/11. They were getting ready to file visas for Canada, move over there or something. But instead, they'd made the decision to stick to the United States, and people supported them. Americans supported them. And in the time that I have been alive, I've noticed more Americans asking me more questions and trying to get to know me better and my faith. And overall, they've become more knowledgeable about what Islam is like. So in the long run, I feel like America and Americans as a whole, we can we can foster a sense of deeper cultural understanding among each other. And that brings me a lot of hope about reducing disparities, racial disparities, and prejudice and whatnot.
Yeah, thank you. Mamani, same question to you.
I would start off by saying, I know social media gets a lot of flack, but it's honestly been instrumental in helping the younger generation widen their horizons and broaden their scopes. It's exposed people to discourse that they wouldn't have been able to be exposed to otherwise. Obviously, social media can be an echo chamber if we allow it to be. But I mean, it's a tool for great good, and it's a tool that's helped a lot of people see things that they wouldn't have seen, hear things that they wouldn't have heard, and get to know people, even from a distance that they would have never had an opportunity to get to know. The other night we were doing a presentation on anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. And a couple of the students were saying, I'm from a really small town. I've never met someone who didn't look like me, talk like me, act like me, believe like me, until they came to, university, a bigger city, came to Butler. And so another way that people get to know things from outside of the perspectives that they've grown up with is social media. So that does give me hope, as much flack as it might get. But beyond that, people are more open to having difficult conversations these days. People are more willing to engage. And those engagements are largely positive. Those interactions are largely wholesome. And so that gives me a lot of hope for the future. When people are willing and open to have difficult discussions, that gives me hope.
Yeah. All right. Thank you both so much for joining.